Hi everyone. I'd like to make a few remarks about texture, the next of the basic elements that we're going to be dealing with in today's classwork. Before I do that, however, the two terms at the top of today's note sheet relate to melody. To conclude our discussion of that basic element, conjunct is just a contour in which the intervals of a melody are close together. A simple example of that would be etc. Very nice melody. The notes are close together. A contour where the intervals, distances between the pitches in a melody, are farther apart is what we call a disjunct melodic contour. There's a little bit of disjunct contour in that melody. Having identified those two terms, you should know that most melodies, most melodic lines, most musical themes usually combine elements of conjunct and disjunct contour, but those are the terms we use to refer to that. You see the definition of texture here. That is repeated from the first day's lecture notes. The density of the sound, the number of different sounding lines happening at the same time. There are 4 different kinds of texture, one of which is used very rarely, but the other 3 are all very common. I have noted them here. They also appear on the description guide in the course documents folder. Monophony literally means mono, one, phony, sound. So if someone is chanting or doing something like that, and there's no other sound, just melody, that is what monophony is. There's no harmony involved. Monophony is melody only. Homophony, homo, same, phony, sound, relates to either multiple lines of music moving in the same rhythm, so different pitches, but the same rhythm in multiple lines of melody, or melody with accompaniment of chords underneath it. That's very common. If you hear someone singing and playing the piano along, very often they'll just play chords underneath and sing over the top, a melodic line over the top. Polyphony is multiple lines of music going at the same time, different lines of music sometimes with the same contour but in different registers, higher or lower, sometimes lines of music with different contours. Finally, heterophony, a very uncommon texture, one that you hear very rarely, would be something like, as you can see, a group of musicians warming up before the beginning of a rehearsal or a performance where everyone is just playing something totally different. Multiple lines of melody that have no relation to one another in terms of rhythm, tempo, or pitch, anything like that. So it exists as a texture, hetero, different phony sound, but it is almost never used because the sound of it is very unsettling. There are a few composers that write this way, but very few. So here, next to each of the types of texture, I have included links to performances of pieces of music that demonstrate those textures so that you'll have a very clear idea of what they sound like. For monophony, a bit of Gregorian chant. This is the singing or chanting of the liturgy of the Roman Catholic Mass. This is music that goes back almost 2,000 years. It is the earliest written music we have in our Western musical tradition. So you will hear a male chorus, all singing in unison, all singing the same pitches. That is monophony. For homophony, there will be more a cappella or unaccompanied vocal music. This time you'll hear 5 parts sung by a pop group named the Beach Boys. They were very well known in the 1960s and 70s. You will hear 5 lines of music moving almost all the time in the same rhythm. So that's an aspect of homophonic texture. We'll give you a very clear idea what that sounds like. Polyphony, 2 or more melodies of equal importance. I'm going to give you a little preview of music you'll be hearing shortly. A little bit of the canon in D major by Johann Pachelbel, music from the late 17th century. You will hear instruments enter one at a time, string instruments, And after they all come in, you'll hear 4 different lines of music going at the same time, and you will be able to hear that they are different. Some of them are busier than others, more notes are being played, they all play in different registers, and that's a good, clear example of polyphony. For heterophony, there's an American composer named Charles Ives, 1874 to 1954. He liked using this heterophonic texture occasionally in some of his music. There's a short excerpt from one of his pieces here, which will give you an idea of what it sounds like, sort of like a patchwork quilt of music. You'll hear recognizable melodies, but they will be played out of time with one another, out of tune with one another in different keys, very confused sounding music. That's a good example of heterophony. I'm including these for you. They're all short pieces, so please do give them a careful listen before you get to today's listening assignment. Because texture and the other elements I haven't quite gotten to yet, harmony and form, they're a little bit more difficult to hear than rhythm and melody and instrumentation. Regarding today's listening and response work, I have provided you with information about the 2 short pieces that I'd like you to listen to. They're both quite short, only about 3 minutes in length. Very different sounding pieces of music. The first one, the Kyrie from the Missa Brevis of Giovanni Pierluigi da Palestrina, written 450 years ago. What I'd like you to do is listen to it, take a few notes, maybe pay attention to the description guide if that's helpful for you. Write a few sentences that identify the texture, tell me what kind of texture it is, tell me what kind of melodic contour you hear in each of the lines of this music. The second piece is very different. This is Louis Armstrong, a legendary jazz trumpet player, and his Hot Five. It's a quintet, a group of 5 players, Dixieland-style jazz, playing a tune written by the woman he was married to at the time, Lil Hardin Armstrong. An explanation of the piece, telling you what you're going to hear. And what I would like you to write about here is 3 of the 4 kinds of texture appear in this tune. And I'd like you to tell me where you hear them. So listen to it a couple times, make some notes on it. I also would like you to compare Armstrong's playing and singing styles. You're going to hear solos by the clarinet. You're going to hear a trumpet solo. You're also going to hear a scat vocal solo. Louis Armstrong plays the trumpet and he sings on this. So I want you to compare his musical style between trumpet playing and singing, in addition to identifying where you hear different kinds of texture, because it does change throughout this short piece. And at the bottom is where you'll find the homework, NT3 in the homework folder, and remember that it's due on Friday morning. Thanks for your attention. I hope you enjoy listening to this music. These are 2 pieces that I really enjoy. I hope you do too. Speak to you again soon. Thanks.